Yet it was our infirmities that he bore, our sufferings that he endured. He was pierced for our offenses, crushed for our sins. These words are taken from the book of the prophet Isaiah. They are about the suffering servant of God. What is interesting about this reading is that it is God who is speaking about the servant. See, my servant shall prosper. He shall be raised high and greatly exalted. Brothers and sisters, through his passion and death, Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of this prophecy. He is the willing servant who accepts the sins of others, yet is completely the innocent one. Oppressed and condemned, he was taken away, and who would have thought any more of his destiny, and smitten for the sin of his people. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus is recognized as the Messiah, the anointed one of God. But though Jesus accepts this title of being the anointed one, he astonishes and surprises his closest followers when he tells them what type of Messiah he is. He reveals that he is the Son of Man who will suffer much, be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, be put to death, and rise on the third day. This was not the type of Messiah the people or Jesus' own disciples were expecting. They desired a Messiah and King who is triumphant, victorious, and defeats the enemies of Israel. They did not want someone who would be ridiculed and suffer a humiliating death. How could God permit his anointed one to undergo such a horrific death? The letter to the Hebrews tells us that Christ was both the sacrifice and the high priest, a theme which is echoed in the first reading from Isaiah. Hebrews says, "We have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, Jesus who is both priest and perfect sacrifice." Again, we hear he was son. He learned obedience from what he suffered. So, although Jesus, the suffering servant, is God, he's also son. He obediently and perfectly accepts the will of the Father because he has aligned his will completely with the will of God. Human suffering is one of the hardest mysteries to understand. We experience it, and we see others experience it, and we try to understand it. And yet, we may not be able to achieve or come to an answer. When we look around the world, we see that suffering is taking place in many forms. The horrors of war in Ukraine and the Holy Land, famine in many parts of Africa, and the oppression of people. But we also see suffering in our own community, the threat against the unborn child, the homeless mother with children who live in a vehicle, the poor who must decide whether to buy groceries or medication, the spouse with suffering from a divorce, the sick who faces an incurable disease, the elderly in nursing homes whose family rarely or never visits, or the child that suffers from bullying at school, or the disregard for the immigrant who seeks protection. There are many who endure these painful situations in life. Dear friends, their suffering is real, just as much as our suffering is real. Who will stand with them? We can run away as the disciples did when Jesus was arrested and condemned to death. Or we can remain with Jesus at the foot of the cross, with Mary, his sorrowful mother, and with John, the beloved disciple. Accompanying Jesus, though they are unable to change the situation, they stand firm with him out of love. Hebrews goes on to say, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." Jesus was human and experienced pain and temptation, and yet he was sinless. Every kind of pain and every type of suffering, but was sinless. Yet he never responded to others who hurt him and harmed him with aggression or violence. Because of his sinless sacrifice, Jesus' gift of self on the cross, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who believe. Pope St. John Paul II, reflecting on the suffering of Christ, wrote these moving words: "Behold, he, though innocent, takes upon himself the sufferings of all people, because he takes upon himself the sins of all. The Lord laid on him the guilt of us all. All human sin, in its breadth and depth, becomes the true cause of the Redeemer's suffering." Jesus, yes, this man, but no ordinary man, could do this. He alone, as the only begotten Son, could take upon himself all the iniquity of humanity. Through his sacrifice on the cross, Jesus, fully man and fully God, paid the price for our sins. This is why today is called Good Friday, the day when the Son of God, the sinless one, became sin for us and redeemed humanity. Brothers and sisters, Christ willingly shed his blood for you and me, and he did it out of love. This act of love deserves an act of love from us. We are sinners, and yet we can open our hearts and offer the Son of God our love, imperfect as it may be. Will we open up our lives to him and make ourselves vulnerable? Can we open ourselves to him and show to him who loved us to the end those parts of us that we are hesitant for anyone else to see? We must be willing to respond to Jesus with love. That's the only response to the cross. Let me conclude with words from St. John Chrysostom, Father of the Church, who was meditating upon the cross of Christ and wrote these words: "On the cross, God has done his part. He has expressed fully, freely, unconditionally his love for humanity. Now he asks us to give in to his love. Just as true, authentic love requires a full and total gift of self, so now we are asked to make a complete gift of self in return to the Father."